I actually just meant to schedule, making sure my microphone is on. I meant to schedule this live stream for a bit later, but it's happening now. So here I am live. My name is Emma. Hello and welcome to my channel, anyone who is jumping on this live stream or watching the replay. Today I wanted to answer some questions, do a Q&A, specifically the specific focus being what are the different states in your nervous system? I have my phone here. I'm reading from that. We'll do a Q&A around answering some questions around that. And then I will more than likely guide us through a body scanning meditation with the intention of helping us connect to our own internal state, what's going on in our nervous system, becoming aware of whatever state we might be in that moment. So whether we are in a parasympathetic state, a rest and digest state in our body, if our body and our system has a bit of a free state going on, or if there's a bit of flight energy, a bit of anxiety, or a bit of fight, protection, defensive, closing up, a bit of angsty, anger, irritation. Um, yeah, irritation is usually a sure sign of anger. Okay, so this video will kind of be like a follow on from a video I recently made, which is titled, What is the Fight Response, or How to Release the Fight Response in Your Nervous System. I will link that below as well. And I answered quite a few questions about the fight response and touched on some elements and ideas around the other different sympathetic states in your nervous system, the fight, flight, and freeze. I've touched on a little bit of what they're like, how they might show up in your body. But today I'll just go into a little bit more, a little bit deeper. And before we do that, I would just preface, we're in a public place right now. There's a bit of activity going on around me. So if I pause for a little bit, it might just be because I have people around and I'm just very aware of my environment and maybe want to wait before I touch on certain topics. So because I'm talking quite a bit, I will have plenty of water. Feel free to use my water prompts as a reminder to have water yourself. And I will just start with that and we'll get started. I love it how life, the universe, however you want to call it, just gets you started before you're ready. It's like, I'll go live when I'm ready. And they're like, now, it's happening now. No time to wait. So here we are. So if I'm referencing my phone, it's just because I have a few things written down that I want to cover and I want to make sure I remember that. Okay. So what are the different states in the nervous system? I'm going to explain from my understanding what they are. And my understanding is just based on my personal experience. I'm not trained in somatic experiencing specifically. I'm trained as a yoga meditation teacher. And that yoga is often targeted towards bringing balance into your nervous system. We learn about that through yoga. So I do have some, I guess, qualification in from the angle of yoga, perspective of yoga and meditation and relaxation processes that are taught via yoga, like yoga nidra as well. But from a somatic experiencing polyvagal theory perspective, this is me sharing my experiences with learning to regulate my own nervous system, learning to heal and bring myself into balance. So everything I'm sharing about this in a more scientific, air quotes, we use that very specifically, that's just me learning and living and learning how to heal and regulate my own nervous system and then sharing my experience. I will say also I have worked with a chiropractor for like over 10 years now. In this form of chiropractic specifically targets and focuses on your nervous system, bringing healing and integration into your body, your being, your psyche, and specifically your nervous system. So having experienced that for over 10 years now, I have learned a little bit about at least how my nervous system reacts, responds, and integrates life, which is such an invaluable thing. Okay, so let's touch on what inspired me to talk about this. Is someone asked about the fight response and how when a conflict comes up, sometimes they go from instead of going into the fight response, which might in their mind seem like the appropriate reaction, they sometimes go into anxiety instead of the fight response. And they asked, what could that be? I thought about that for a moment, and then I remembered that if we have had experiences in our lives where it wasn't perhaps safe to fight back to protect ourselves, we might default into perhaps a freeze response where we shut down and implode and play dead, essentially, or the running away, the flight response. And this person referred to anxiety a lot, and anxiety tends to be connected to the flight response, the flee, the running. So more than likely, this person, or possibly not, but the way I interpret it, they might have a habitual state in their nervous system that feels safer with running from conflict, not even just like interpersonal conflict, but just any sense of threat rather than fighting. So you just might have a safe space in your nervous system that you habitually go to that is your safe way of protecting and defending yourself. So some people might operate more in a flight state, a running state. And these things show up in so many ways in our lives. I'm going to go into detail in a moment on what they are. I realize I just got sidetracked a little bit, but I will explain what those states are, how they feel in your body. But just as a brief example, if your home in your body, your safest way of protecting and defending yourself is to run in that flight state, that's going to show up in the way you walk, always kind of walking with your neck and head forward, always in front of yourself. I've touched on this before. If you're walking next to people and you're in a triggered or dysregulated state, you might always want to be walking in front of them. But this also shows up in personal relationships, a sense of comfort with closeness and intimacy. If someone's default is that flight state, they might walk in front of this other person a lot because it creates distance, and it creates space from closeness and intimacy instead of walking side by side with someone, which can be a very balancing and regulating state of being. There's that walking in front, or some way of getting out ahead of a situation to feel safe. If your home in your nervous system is to freeze, that can feel like a really stuck energy, a really locked energy in your body, in your mind, in your psyche. It can feel like things are really hard to get going. It can look like sometimes procrastination. It can look like helpless, hopeless energy, defeatedness. It can look like depression. It can look like actually anxiety that's really suppressed. So you have like a depressive, heavy state with a subtle anxiety underneath. And I will go into this into a moment, but that does connect to what's actually happening in your nervous system in these states. But it can be hard to just do the simplest of things like getting out of bed, feeding yourself, having a shower. Having a shower can feel exhausting. It can just feel like you wake up really tired. And you might not even personally be tired, but that your body feels exhausted by the actions of the day, basically. I have a little bit of water. And the fight response, which I elaborated on quite a bit more in that video I mentioned, which I will link in the description. The fight response is kind of quite simple in a way to detect in some people, is that they're often very combative, very defensive, very quick to take offense, biting back, irritable. You can be quick to tear up as well and cry because there's this really heightened level of cortisol in your system and this protective state, and there's a lot of emotional volatility that can occur when you're in a fight state. It's a complete feeling of being unsafe, but wanting to push away at the same time, or protect and defend, but feeling very vulnerable. And there's a deep desire to actually connect at the same time as you're pushing away, because that connection calms and regulates at a physical level. Okay, I think I've kind of described how those things might look. I'm just going to check what my notes were so I make sure I don't get sidetracked. Okay, so just from a scientific state, the fight state is a sympathetic state in your nervous system, so it's a dysregulated state. The flight state is also a sympathetic state in your nervous system, so it's a dysregulated state in your nervous system. The freeze state, from my understanding, is both a sympathetic and parasympathetic state in your nervous system. So that kind of means when you're in a fight and flight, there's an immobilized energy, a movement forward, a protect, defend, or a run energy. So the energy is mobilized and moving. And then, so that activates, but then also the immobilizing energy of the parasympathetic nervous system activates as well. And I think, from my understanding, what happens is the nervous system determines that perhaps the fight and flight aren't going to be successful. And so it shuts itself down with this parasympathetic slowing down state. And you've got these, I think that's what's going on. But I do know that these two things happen at the same time. You've got the conflict of the sympathetic, the mobilized energy, and the immobilized energy, and they're almost pulling in two different directions, causing this like freeze in the nervous system. And there's also the shutdown. It's also called dorsal vagal shutdown. So it's I think the dorsal vagal part of your nervous system is especially through the center of the body here, and you get that real shutdown and implosion energy. And if you observe this in people who are in a severe dorsal vagal shutdown, it can look like severe depression. I've noticed it myself in my own experiences, but observing other people when there's like loss, shock, grief, or just something so overwhelming emotionally that maybe it's not overwhelming for other people to look at, but for that person and what capacity they have in themselves and their system to process that situation, it can be so overwhelming. The whole system shuts down. So when they're in that real freeze state, there's a lot of a person needs to be quite gentle to like with themselves, to gently open themselves back up, open their body back up, and open back up to life. Because what happens as they come into that regulated state again, that balance again, is often those emotions or feelings or triggers that cause that shutdown are still going to be there, ready to be processed. Maybe not with the same level of shock and intensity as in that moment, but there's still going to be stuff that emotionally needs to be worked through. And then you've got your parasympathetic state in your nervous system, which is the rest, digest, heal state. This is a state that I feel right now, if I'm checking in with myself, I'm mostly parasympathetic, primarily parasympathetic if I'm checking in. And that's a good feeling place. We're feeling more centered, calm, present. We feel connected to our bodies. Our bodies' energy isn't going towards protecting and defending ourselves from anything. We have this energy in our body that goes towards the healing and repair functions of our immune system, our organs, our internal body system, everything else. There's space, there's time, there's space and energy in our system to do its natural processes. We're not in a survival state, basically. It's a great place to be. We don't have to be there all the time. There are positive things about sympathetic states, obviously for safety, but also for excitement, moving things forward in life. It's neither a good or bad. I mean, it depends on the context of the situation, but the only issue generally is if you get stuck in a sympathetic state and you're stuck in a survival state, that can be distressing to your immune system, to your body, to the way you feel. It's just basically quite unpleasant. Okay, let's check my notes again. Having a little bit more water. Okay, so I think that I covered the questions I wanted to answer. So if there was anyone on the live stream and they have questions, I could answer them now, but I will leave that for a moment, and I think I'll guide us through this body scanning meditation. Primarily, firstly, because meditating just feels great. um, but also just to give an example of how to connect in with your own body, see how you're actually feeling, and get a sense of, okay, what state am I in? How does that feel? What sensations does this state have? Not to judge or even necessarily change it, just to become aware of yourself, where you're at, and you can take that awareness into your next moments in your life. So when you know what state you're in and how you're feeling, you have the capacity to change it and support yourself. So, if, for example, if you were in a flight state quite unconsciously, running in your life, your shoulders are up, everything's going forward all the time, that's going to have a negative impact on you, whether you realize or not. But if this is an unconscious thing for you, you're not going to know, oh, I'm in a flight state. You might feel anxious, stressed, and you can't calm down, but you might not go, oh, my body is in a flight state. Okay, there's tools I can use to calm myself down, to get regulated. You actually have this agency within yourself to make shifts. So that's the gift of understanding what's happening in your body. I mean, many people naturally do this. We naturally know what's going on within us. But if we have a lot of disconnection, dissociation, and unconscious patterns within ourselves, um, registering what's going on might just be a little bit numbed out, or we may not be clocked in. And we might not be clocked in because it protects us from dealing with challenging things. So this thing we're about to do, it's got a name. It's called interoception. Interoception, I believe that's how you pronounce it. And it has to do with being able to perceive your internal state of being, essentially. Okay. So let us get started with the meditation. Hopefully that'll be my last sip of water. So find a comfortable place to sit or lie down and just close your eyes, relax your arms. And just take a few breaths here. Let your palms kind of face down just to kind of ground yourself. Relax through your face. Relax your belly area. Relax through your hips. And relax through your thighs. Relaxing your knees. And relax and soften through your calves, your feet. Softening through your hands, through the palms of your hands, the backs of your hands, and right up through your arms, your forearms, your elbows, the upper arms and shoulders. Remembering the breath, so just being aware of your breathing and remembering to allow it to flow easily as much as you can. And feeling into your shoulders and your shoulder blades, just soften in and around your chest, your middle back, your lower back, and bring your attention to the base of your spine, letting your breath flow into your belly. Just kind of imagining your breath could flow right to the base of your spine. Take a few breaths like this, letting that breath flow all the way down to your coccyx, and then as you breathe out, it rises up through your nose or out of your mouth. A couple more times. Again. Okay, and just bring your attention to the crown of your head, the sides of your head, the sides of your neck, the back of your neck, and the front of your throat. And notice your jaw, your gums, tongue, soften through your tongue and the inside of your mouth. And soften through your nose, through your eyes, through your forehead, softening through your temples and your ears, feeling into the inner ears, your inner ears, just as a sense, maybe not in a literal interpretation. Just imagine that you can, and if you actually can, just feeling that space. A couple of breaths here. imagine or feel into your chest and see if you can just feel, through feeling sense, your heartbeat in your chest. See if you can notice anywhere a pulse of your blood running, anywhere maybe near your neck, or you're just feeling that blood pumping through your chest, or a subtle pounding or a loud pounding. See if you can feel for your heart pumping in your chest. Or you might even feel a pulse in your fingers that are resting on your legs or wherever they're resting. Just notice that pulse. Okay, bring your attention into your belly area and imagine your digestive system. See if you can feel into that space and what's going on there. If there's any movement, like gurgling, or just any movement in your digestive system, any processes going on. And don't kind of force this feeling. Like if you feel nothing, that's absolutely probably fine and normal too. But it's more just, can you sense any movement, anything going on in your belly area? Okay. So staying aware of what's happening inside of you, just for a moment, I'd like you to just listen to your environment, just so you get a sense of what's happening around you, keeping your eyes closed. You're just interpreting the sounds, getting a sense of the space around you. And now bring that attention back inside of yourself and just feeling into the muscles in your body. See if you can feel for the warmth of your body, just feeling the muscles in your legs, your arms. And if you can't feel them necessarily, just be aware of where those muscles are. Keeping this attention inside of yourself, just notice for how your body actually feels right now. Is there a buzz through your system? Like maybe you're aware of your nerves and maybe there's a subtle buzz that could be more of an anxious energy or even just an excited energy, but there's a bit of mobilized energy. Or you might have a sense, sometimes this shows up emotionally, of irritation or unsettledness or just discomfort of being in your own skin, an energy of pushing back. And that can sound maybe difficult to interpret, but when you're in that state, you know what I mean. There's a defensive energy, a get me out of here kind of feeling. I just want to push back, yeah, make something happen, get rid of something type of feeling. And if you're dealing maybe perhaps with a freeze state, this is of course if you're in a dysregulated state where you've got a bit of that happening in your body, there might be an energy of slight kind of suppression, of drawing down, or of like a subtle locking in your body, tensing up, but in a way that just makes you feel drawn heavy into the ground, but not in a relaxed, calm way, in a way that you're locked. There's a locked sense in your body. This could even just be a deep emotional heaviness and a disconnection, a sense of dissociation, feeling emotionally disconnected, feeling numb. It's very normal if you're in a freeze state. I guess, the feelings are kind of frozen. And if you're in a more regulated state, a parasympathetic state in your nervous system, that's going to probably more feel like warmth in your chest, easy breathing, a calmness through your chest, warm blood flowing through your legs. You're going to be able to feel your legs in a more accessible way. Like you're going to feel connected to your limbs, your legs, your feet. You should be able to feel your feet quite easily. Your mind is going to be a lot more calm. You might not be in a perfectly relaxed state, but generally there's a sense of balance and settledness. You're not trying to escape the moment. The moment is feeling generally quite safe. Just notice whatever sensations might be going on in your body. None of these states are right or wrong. It's just information. And with that information, you can do what you want. You don't have to do anything at all. But for example, if the goal were in this moment to be in a more regulated parasympathetic state, if you notice you've got a freeze state going on, or at least some symptoms of that, or a flight state, or a fight state going on, and you go, oh, God, it might feel better to be more regulated. You can go, okay, I'm sensing this might be happening, so let me apply a tool to get me into a more regulated state. So it just gives you choice. So I'm just going to take a few more breaths here, just getting present with your body, just paying attention. And if you don't actually know what's going on in your body, that's also totally fine. The whole process of being willing to just listen in is a part of getting to know your body. And in time, naturally, you'll start to get a sense, whether you just learn the signs and signals that you can read about yourself and not necessarily be able to pick it up straight away, that's also okay. A couple more breaths here. Okay, when you are ready, just being happy with yourself with whatever you found or didn't find is going on inside of you. Everything is perfect and you are all good. When you're ready, you can open your eyes. Thank you for doing that meditation with me. And what I'm going to do is I will post a playlist of a lot of the nervous system regulation videos I've made within the past year. A lot of them specifically target different states in your body, offering so many different tools that help to shift your state into a more regulated and balanced place. These are all tools that I've learned for myself and used for myself, and I've found to work, which is why I share them. So I'll put a playlist there, and if you did that meditation and you noticed a sympathetic state that you wanted to shift, or you just want to expand upon that regulated state and go deeper into that in a way that feels good, I'll put that playlist there and you can have a look through if you like and try some of those tools and exercises and see if that helps you shift your state. And I would also really love it if you do try those exercises and they actually work for you. I would love to know. I would love to know how it helps, if it works for you as well in the same way it works for me. So please do leave me a comment or a like or interact in some way to let me know, because I just love knowing how it works for others, because it works really well for me. So if you have any questions as well about anything I shared, I know there were a few moments where I kind of felt like I went off on a tangent. So hopefully there was some coherence in what I was saying. But if you have some questions, feel free to leave that in the comments. I'll do my best to respond or make a video to answer them. Yeah, or if you want to share anything with me, feel free to do that as well. Thank you so much for being here and for joining in, and I will see you in my next video. Bye bye.